Just to begin, I believe you played trumpet as a young boy before you turned to guitar. Is that right?
Yeah, I played trumpet in school for about 5 or 6 years.
Was there anything or anyone in particular that influenced the change to guitar?
B.B. King, I saw him play when I was about 11 years old. And also, I had a Lightning Hopkins record. My mother is from Texas. And so, I was hip to him. So between the two of them, that's what got me into guitar.
Yeah. Was yours a musical household growing up?
Not terribly. My mother listened to records, and we went to church, and they had a band at church, and, but it wasn't really musicians in the household like that, really. Just myself. My sister took lessons and played when she was younger.
Yeah.
But that was it, just the children.
I believe you spent some time as a street singer in New Orleans back in the early days. How do you look back on those times in terms of your development as a performer?
Well, New Orleans was like a high-level school for music. Not only styles of music, the New Orleans styles, and jazz and blues and other types of music also, but also I learned how to relate to an audience, how to attract an audience's attention. I learned the importance of having variety in your repertoire, trying to have songs that would catch people's attention, because on the street you're competing with a lot of different noises and other musicians as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a great learning experience being there, and also getting to meet a lot of musicians that I had really idolized. Like, shortly after I moved to Louisiana, I got to meet Danny Barker. Are you familiar with him?
Oh, yes, yep.
Yeah, Danny Barker, and got to play his banjo and talk with him. I knew Snooks Eaglin. I got to, meet the Neville brothers and a bunch of different people I got to know, so it was definitely good for me in many ways.
I believe you spent some time as a teacher. Was that a career path that perhaps you were considering going down at one stage, or was in the back of your mind, was there always going to be a career in music?
I always wanted to do music. I just, was taking jobs to support me on my way to my destination in music. But I come from a long line of school teachers. My grandfather was a principal of a country school in Texas. My grandmother, she was a teacher. My mother taught school. My stepfather taught school, both of them for over 30 years. So I was always around it in one way or another. But I didn't consider actually making it a career. It was just what I was doing at that time. And I also wanted to be around young people and be able to give something back and, influence a young person.
What do you think it was about blues music? Can you put your finger on one particular thing that initially grabbed your attention about it?
About what?
About the blues.
Oh. Well, I can't really say any theme about it. The blues, I grew up listening to records, like I said, B.B. King and Lightning Hopkins and C.C. Hill. So what attracted me was the lyrics and the storytelling aspect. And then, being that I like guitar players, I like that as well. I like the style of blues guitar that I heard. And that's what really took me, was the guitar and then the lyrics as well.
And once you discovered the blues, were you pretty quick to start, I guess, become a keen student of the music and study the history of it?
Well, that information wasn't readily available. It's not like we had the internet back then, and books like that weren't even in the library. So anything I knew about the blues would be related by the older people in my family, mostly my mother and my stepfather, and it was just their experience and what they knew. So it wasn't like I was like going and reading any like in-depth books or anything. That wasn't available. I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
So, I just like to listen to the music and then listen to my folks, my parents tell me what music they liked when they were coming up and, how it was when they would go and listen to music and who were they seeing and, that sort of thing. They really saw, to them it was very normal, but they saw a lot of great people like, Ella Fitzgerald and Count Basie and, a lot of different people. So that was very influential.
Now, your early album's very much in the realm of the traditional acoustic blues, but you've taken your music to many other places and explored lots of musical territories through the years. Do you get a little restless sometimes just staying in the one style for too long? Is it just in your nature to explore other styles?
Well, I look at music differently, and I look at it as a tree, and it's really all one style with different branches to me. So my foundation is in the blues, but I have big ears, and, I don't really limit myself to calling it anything other than original music when I write something. So it can take any shape or form, but it's always rooted in the blues. So, people have said, have called some of my music reggae, and the music, a lot of times that is called reggae, to me, sounds like blues. And then when I play something that sounds like reggae, sometimes they'll say the opposite, so I realize that people's perceptions of genre and style can be very much influenced by what the performer looks like. So, sometimes I'll play what I know is a blues song, and someone will say, oh, that sounded like reggae to me, and I'll be like, no, it's blues. So, all that being said is I deal with a tree, and I'm playing the whole of the tree from the root to the branches.
Yeah. So no matter where your music takes you, you still primarily consider yourself a blues musician.
Well, yeah, that's my root. I'm not blues like Gabe Miles Brown, B.B. King, Arl Burnside, Junior Kimbrough, like they were blues. Because they were coming up in an era when blues was the popular music, and it's really not popular in that sense anymore, especially not among black folks in America. Not to say that we don't play blues, but it's just a lot different now. So I don't go around saying I'm a blues man, but, I claim that that's my heritage, that's where I came from, and if they didn't have that, I wouldn't be here. So I have to give it the highest respect, because that's the tradition.
You've travelled to Africa numerous times over the years, which obviously has influenced you musically. Tell us about your times there and how the music there has affected you.
Well, I've been to many different countries in mostly West Africa and some in East and Central Africa. And the music that I've been most influenced by has been Mali, because I've traveled there many times. I did a documentary film with the late Ali Farka Toure. We also did a record together on the Rounder Records label. And I played with people like Baseko Kouyaté, Habib Kwaite, Boubacar Traore, Dumani Diabate, different people, not only in Mali but in Guinea as well. So that Manding tradition is something that really speaks to me just because I have played a lot of the music with a lot of the musicians, both in Mali and in Guinea and also in America. So, yeah, my travels to Africa have been exchanges. You know, I go with something and I leave something and then I take something with, you know, meaning that I try and share something of myself. And then I'm also enriched personally by those that I meet that share something of themselves with me, their culture, and so on. You know, so that's how we do.
You mentioned Ali Farka Touré, and you also produced a book on his life and music. That must have been a real labour of love for you.
Yeah, well, when I was spending time with Ali, he was very adamant that what we were talking about, that I should go and share the knowledge that I've learned from him and through my travels with others, so that there could be more understanding of the history of black people in Africa and in the diaspora and the common cultural core that we share, the values and the history. And so the book was my answering that call, sharing that information so that one could know the truth about the history.
Earlier in our chat, you mentioned B.B. King as a great influence on you, and you did get to tour with him. That must have been a fantastic learning experience for you.
Well, of course, you know, watching B.B. every day was great. Really a very dignified man, but also very down to earth. He was someone who made everyone feel very comfortable, was very humble, yet commanded respect at the same time because he was so gracious and so attentive to those who were around him. You never felt like you were with a star. You really had class in a sense that I don't think you see it as much now. You see people who have attitude and they're stuck up their nose in the sky, that sort of thing, but he was humble and very kind to everyone and attentive, you know, and also very dignified, classy. So he was of a breed that we don't see that much anymore, you know, because prior to being a star, you know, he was very poor. He picked cotton, you know, and even when he was a star, he had it rough, you know, because that was during the time of Jim Crow and segregation. I mean, if you were a black music star in the 50s, you couldn't go to the hotel. You couldn't go to no hotel unless it was black-owned, and there weren't a whole lot of those all over the place, so many times you just drove and drove and drove to your destination, or you camped out somewhere, but you did that at your own peril, at a lot of risk, because as we know in the history of Jim Crow and in America, you could be killed and there could be no repercussions. You know, similar to today in a lot of ways, but it was even, I think, more acutely felt because there was not in the media and, you know, it's a different time. So all that is to say that he really, even when he was famous, really had to pay some dues and do some suffering for his art, you know. So what I learned from BB just is also is, when I say he was gracious, he was very attentive to his fans, and he would wait 2 or 3 hours after a show and sign things for his fans, talk to them, you know, children, the elderly, it didn't matter who, you know. So he also showed that you're only as powerful or as great as your fans, you know. And I've been with artists who don't realize how important that is, and they have suffered. Their careers have suffered because of it. So, you know, just some of those basic things, just treat people right, be dignified, you know, be attentive to your fans. He really, like I say, was a very classy person, very dignified, and all honor and respect to B.B. King.
Absolutely. Back in 2007, you were awarded a grant from the MacArthur Foundation. Tell us about that and what it meant to you in terms of developing your music.
Well, they gave me the opportunity to travel, to do more traveling to Africa, and I was able to do the research that led to the book and finish the book. And it also enabled me to produce my own music as well. So it was very helpful in that sense. But I think the best part of it is not the actual monetary award, but just the designation of being named such. And there's so many people in different walks of life, and different artists and doctors and scientists and people from all different professions who have been honored with that. So that's what was nice for me, because there's some people that I really admired who I learned had won as well. So that felt good.
So overall, Corey, what do you think of the state of blues music today? Are there enough like-minded people playing it the traditional way to keep the flame alive?
Well, I think it really depends on what we're talking about when we say blues, because there's the blues industry, which is not going anywhere. Then there's the style of blues, the art form. People will always play, if it's a 1-4-5 progression, that will always be played. But as far as the black roots of traditional blues, there's not a whole lot of black people still playing the traditional blues. There's some who will always do it, but that is something that is quite rare and special in this day and age for a number of reasons. So I would say that, we have to narrow down what we're talking about when we say the blues. It's, like I say, as an art form, it's not going anywhere, but as an art form among the people who gave the blues, it is competing with other influences now. But still, the best place I find to go listen to traditional blues is to go to Mississippi or Arkansas and go to the King Biscuit or go to the Sunflower Blues Festival or go to the, one of those festivals down there, or go to a juke joint. They still have operational juke joints, and if you really want to hear the blues in the area that it came from the people who gave it, that's definitely a place for all blues fans to travel and experience.
I noticed that people can access online video tutorials from you through a website called Sonic Junction. How did you find that experience, sitting and explaining your craft to a camera?
Well, I've done something like that before. I've taught guitar on and off for years, and I did, prior to Sonic Junction several years before that, I did an instructional video for homespun tape. So I had some experience, but I find that I learn a lot when I teach, because when you have to teach something, of course, you have to break it down and slow it down, and you're even more conscious of what you do to make the music,
Yeah. Talk about your upcoming shows here in Australia and what we can expect. Are you playing solo or bringing a band with you?
I'll be solo.
You'll be
acoustic.
Solo. Fantastic. We'll look forward to that. And what are your plans for the rest of the year after Australia?
Well, I'll be doing some work in Western Europe in October, November, and I got some scattered shows in the United States. I'll be in Poland, and near the end of the year, I'm supposed to be in Florida. So we'll see.
Wonderful. And recording-wise, is there anything on the horizon there?
Yes, I have a live solo acoustic album coming out soon, as well as a studio record featuring some acoustic as well as some tracks with my band as well.
Oh, fantastic. So plenty to look forward to there. Thanks so much for your time.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for the call.
We'll look forward to seeing you down here. Have a safe trip, and we can't wait for your shows next month.
I'm looking forward as well. Thank you.
All the best, Corey.
Bye now.
Bye.